family, which means she has a chance of socializing with other people if she is forced to go out. Her only problem is that she is scared. The doctor advises Mr. Bond to get his daughter out before she cuts off her family as well. At dinner, Maenam uses a straw to eat, refusing to take the box off. In a heavy voice, Mr. Bond asks his children to listen to him carefully. The siblings do not let him talk and assume either he has cancer or he is gay. Mr. Bond puts down both claims and reveals that he wants Maenam to go to school with her brothers, starting tomorrow. Maenam thinks he is joking and retaliates, as he had expected, but this time, Mr. Bond doesn't give in to her stubbornness and is adamant about his decision. Even Plawan is surprised by his father's persistence. Maenam declares that she hates him and storms off to her room. She cries for the next hour, nervous about tomorrow. She is certain that everyone will bully her for the box. Still, she prefers being bullied to being called ugly. To make her feel better, Plawan brings her a new box to replace the old one and offers to help her decorate it. Following that, she takes off the box for the first time and reveals her face that is anything but ugly. Plawan assures her that he won't let people make fun of her, but it doesn't make her feel better. Then, the siblings decorate the new box for Maenam. The following morning, Mr. Bond drives his children to school. While Plawan gets out of the car and walks in, Maenam starts to hyperventilate under the box. Mr. Bond plays calming music to help her and motivates her to go in. Maenam apologizes for saying mean things to him last night and thanks him for trying to help her. As soon as she leaves, Mr. Bond also breaks down crying, worried for his daughter. Maenam holds her breath and finally walks into the school. The big bright box on her head does not go unnoticed. Everyone starts to point at her and whisper, which makes her panic even more. Their laughs remind her of the day she was humiliated all those years ago. Maenam gets dizzy and is about to pass out, but a guy comes to help her right on time. He also has a helmet on, which makes her feel a bit better. The guy introduces himself as Minton, but she gets nervous and runs away. While she is at it, she accidentally bumps into the school's most popular guy, Zero. He and his group of friends ask her to take the box off, curious about her looks. When Maenam refuses to do so, they surround her and try forcing it off. They are stopped by Minton, who takes off his helmet and reveals his face. Zero and Minton stare at each other in anger and decide to solve the conflict outside school. Minton then holds Maenam's hand and takes her away. In the following scene, she is nervously standing in front of the class. The teacher has been told about her condition, so she requests the students to respect her privacy. But being typical teenagers, they start to bully her, urging her to show them her face. Minton is also in the same class and is angered by his classmates' behavior. Maenam quietly walks to the last seat and stays with her head down most of the time. During the lunch break, she goes to the cafeteria looking for her brother, but cannot find him anywhere. The students do not stop staring and talking about her. A pair of guys see her eating with the box on her head and force her to take it off. Everyone sees them bullying her, but laughs instead of helping. Eventually, Maenam leaves her food unfinished and runs outside crying. When she is alone in the playground, Minton suddenly appears beside her. He is wearing a helmet, which she thinks is to mock her for her box. Minton clarifies that he just likes the way he looks with the helmet. He then shares his sandwich with her because she couldn't eat earlier. Maenam feels a lot more comfortable talking to him after that. They joke around and laugh, but then she says that she won't be coming to school the next day. Minton declares that he is her friend and urges her to come, even if it's only for him. After school, Minton and the bully Zero meet as they had promised. They get into a verbal altercation because of their differences. Minton insults Zero for always walking around with his minions and challenges him to a one-on-one fight. Zero takes it and steps forward after asking his friends to stay back. Minton lands the first punch, but Zero fights back with an equally powerful blow. Maenam is making her way back home when she witnesses them wrestling. Suddenly, the police arrive, and the guys have to separate. Zero sees her on his way out and pulls her along with him. After running off to a quiet area, he forces the box off her head. In a climactic scene, he lays eyes upon her face and is left speechless at the sight. But Maenam thinks that he is staring at her because she is ugly. The memories of her past trauma keep playing in her head, and she passes out. When Mainam finally wakes up, she finds herself in the hospital bed without her box. She immediately starts to panic and has to be given a face mask to calm down. Her father is very sorry that he forced her to go to school. He blames himself for getting her hospitalized and allows her to stay home as she wanted. To everyone's surprise, Mainam declares that she wants to return to school only because she wants to take revenge on Zero for forcing her to take the box off. The following day, Zero is on his own, thinking about Mainam. He is confused as to why she would cover up her face when she is so beautiful. Just then, Mainam arrives and slaps him in the face for what he did yesterday. When his minions try to get close to her, Zero stops them. He yet again tries to take her face mask off, but is stopped by Minton. They get into another fight because of her, but she stops them both and brings them aside. By now, news about the two handsome guys fighting for the boxhead girl has circulated around the school. Mainam yells at the guys for making her life even more difficult. When Minton says he only wanted to help her, Zero laughs. He is sure that Minton is attracted to her like he is. Minton also senses that Zero is trying to get with Mainam and asks him if it is true. A flustered Zero denies it, calling Mainam ugly. The comment reminds her of her trauma and makes her fall unconscious again. Minton helps her while Zero is left behind, jealous. The next day, Mainam goes back to her insecure phase. She refuses to come out of her room or talk to anyone. Mr. Bond and Plowan are discussing what they can do to help her when someone calls them from outside their house. Zero has come to apologize to Mainam for his mistake, but Plowan refuses to let him in, accusing him of sending Mainam back to the spiral of depression. The next morning, Minton comes to cheer her up, but she refuses to let him inside her room. Upon his repeated requests, she wears a face mask and meets him. To her surprise, he has made a duck box that she can use to cover her face. Mainam cannot help but burst out laughing at the sight. He has also made a duck helmet for himself. They wear their respective headgear and go to start a band called Daft Punk. Actually, they just eat together. Minton promises to take care of her and convinces her to come back to school. The next morning, he drives her to school with him. When Mainam is alone, Zero approaches her and tries to apologize, but Plowan disturbs them and sends him away. Later, during class, a girl named Ozone approaches Mainam and asks her for a favor. It turns out that a rumor about Mainam and Zero dating has been circulating around the school. Since he might listen to her, Ozone wants Mainam to stop him from bullying people. Mainam denies having anything to do with him and storms away. Even during the lunch break, a crowd of people ask her for similar favors, but she turns them all down. But then, she is informed that Zero is beating up her brother. On running to check up on him, she finds Zero's friends beating him to the ground. Zero makes them stop and claims that Plowan started the fight. A furious Mainam calls him out for being a thief who bullies weak students for money and homework. Zero looks at his minions in disbelief because he had ordered them to never bully someone weaker than them. When Mainam asks him to stop hurting people, he in turn urges her to take her box off. If she does so, he promises to never use violence for personal gain. With no other way to help everyone, Mainam takes the box off and reveals her face. Everyone is shocked at the sight. Later, she hugs Minton, crying that everyone saw her today. He is surprised to see her for the first time, but focuses on calming her instead. Later at home, Plowan shows her all the comments under a picture someone posted of her. Although the comments are positive, it doesn't convince Mainam that she is beautiful. Then, she enters her room and sees the window is open. Zero appears out of nowhere and asks her to be quiet. He apologizes for calling her ugly and admits that she is in fact the most beautiful girl he has ever seen. After he leaves, his words keep on repeating in Maywan's mind. She asks her internet friend to look at a picture of her on the school's page. When the friend gushes about how cute she looks, Mainam finally realizes that they must be telling the truth. For the first time in more than 3 years, she brings out a mirror and discovers that she is actually beautiful. She almost does not believe her eyes. The following day, Mainam goes to school without the box. All the students stare at her and gossip, but this time, they are not making fun of her, but are rather admiring her beauty. Although nervous, Mainam is ready to start a new life with confidence she never had before. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.
He introduces the girls, and the people are amazed to see him with another beautiful girl. They start to draw even more attention, as people start to recognize Miyu. Not wanting to cause a scene, Miyu decides to leave, but looks forward to running into him again. After she leaves, Kaori wonders if Miyu is his girlfriend, but Miyu is shocked, saying that he has only met her once before, and that she would be too good for him, but Kaori doesn't agree with him. A woman suddenly screams, as a man runs away with her purse. Kaori wonders what they should do, and Yuya tells Knight to go after the man. They check up on the old lady, and Knight soon returns, dragging the man back. Yuya tells Kaori to call the police, but the man gets free, charging at Kaori to stop her. But Yuya gets in the way, easily disarming and restraining him. The crowd cheers for him, thinking he is so cool, and Kaori thanks him for saving her once again. They hand the man over to the police, and Yuya heads home. Yuya continues exploring deeper into the dark forest. Together with Knight, they encounter countless monsters. They come across another orc king, but this time, Knight shows off his skills, biting its neck and taking it out all by himself. As they continue, they come across a crystal deer, which is at level 630. Yuya observes it while invisible, and sees that it has an impressive magic stat. He wonders how he should approach it, but it suddenly detects him, even through his invisibility, so he has no time to think. It charges at them, so the two split up. Knight tries to attack, but the deer uses magic, creating an explosion to defend itself. It charges up another attack, firing a blast of water at Yuya, but he manages to dodge it. Yuya thinks they need to work together, so he tells Knight to create an opening for him. Knight jumps around the deer with its speed, but the deer retaliates with its magic, causing countless explosions in the area. But Knight manages to land a hit, and Yuya takes the chance to finish it off. He checks out the item drops, and there is a box that catches his attention. As he examines it, it turns out to be a portable bath set that automatically stays clean, and even has a privacy feature to stop people from looking in. He is amazed to find such an item, and decides to try it out, finding that there are multiple settings he can choose from. It's too dangerous to use it in the middle of the forest, so he decides to return to his house for the night, and has a relaxing bath with Knight. The next day, they fight against a needle roller, which has exceptional speed. He struggles at first, but he manages to predict its movements and dodge its attack, causing it to get stuck in a wall, and he takes it out. He finally levels up to 240, and Knight also reaches level 510. The wall suddenly cracks, where the monster had crashed into it, and a cave is revealed, so they decide to check it out. Yuya scans for enemies, but there are no signs of any monsters. The cave suddenly lights up, as they reach a larger room. As they look around, Yuya is shocked to find a body, but Knight points out a book on the floor. Yuya checks it out, and it turns out to be the Book of the Sage. As Yuya reads the book, he learns that the sage was able to do everything, mastering every kind of skill, and becoming as powerful as a god. The gods even asked him to join them, but he declined their invitation. The book starts talking to Yuya, warning him that as he gets stronger, the people around him will begin to fear him. Yuya wonders how he can prevent that from happening, and he suddenly hears the voice of the sage, telling him to find people he can trust. The sage asks him if there is anything he would like to know, and Yuya asks to learn magic. So the sage fills the book with all of his knowledge about magic. But he notes that Yuya can't use magic, because he doesn't have the magical circuits in his body, since he is from another world. However, the sage decides to pass on his own magical circuits to Yuya, telling Yuya to find happiness and to live a good life. Yuya returns to his house and starts learning how to use magic from the book. He starts off by sensing the magical energy around him, and he learns the magic energy manipulation skill. He learns that all he needs to do is to gather magical energy in his hand and just imagine the magic he wants to use. So he goes outside to try it out, imagining a ball of water, and it seems Knight is also learning. He tries shooting the ball at a tree, and it turns out to be ridiculously strong, blowing straight through the tree. Meanwhile, at the royal capital, Owen gives his report to the king. He tells the king about Yuya, but when he mentions how the princess proposed to him, the king loses it, thinking Yuya seduced his daughter. Back at the school, Yuya daydreams, thinking about the sage's book, warning him about using magic, because the techniques he is learning are not commonly known, even in the other world. The teacher reminds them that they will be going camping the following week and sorts them into groups of 4. Yuya is put in a group with Kaide, along with Akira and a girl named Rin. Kaide is excited for the trip, but Yuya mentions he doesn't really have any camping equipment, so Kaide suggests that they go shopping. They head to the mall, where Shingo is surprised to see Kaori joining them. Ryo also can't believe Yuya is friends with Kaori, because most people find her unapproachable, since she is the director's daughter, but she tells them just to think of her as any other student. Yuya wonders where Akira is, and Shingo mentions how he couldn't make it. They head inside, and they help Yuya pick out a backpack. They decide to hang out, and they end up at an arcade. Shingo gets excited seeing his favorite character in a crane game, but says he is terrible at the game. Yuya decides to give it a go. Using his detect weakness skill, he finds the weak spot and manages to win the figure in a single try. Kaide asks him to win her a cat, so he uses his skill again and easily wins it for her. He ends up winning prizes for all his friends, and Kaori says it was her first time at an arcade, thanking him for his gift. The girls decide to do some shopping for clothes, so the guys have a break and go to the cafe for a drink. Yuya thinks about how much fun he had, being able to hang out with friends for the first time, but an alarm suddenly rings, as they are told there is a fire and they need to evacuate. Yuya worries about the girls, thinking that the fire would be closer to them. They reach the staircase, and Yuya asks the man if he has seen his friends. Ryo gets a call from Kaide, who tells them they are still stuck upstairs. Yuya rushes up the stairs, thinking about his friends, and he reaches the source of the fire. The sprinklers aren't enough to put it out, so Yuya thinks it's time to use his magic. He covers his body with a layer of water, allowing him to run right through the flames. We see the girls unconscious from the smoke, while Yuya rushes to find them. He manages to make it to them just in time, and he wonders if there is anyone else. He uses his detection skill to scan the building, and it seems they are the only ones left. He covers the girls with his magic, but the fire surges, and he worries they won't make it out. Meanwhile, Ryo and Shingo watch from outside, telling the officers that their friends are still inside, but there is nothing they can do until they fight the fire. Yuya runs around looking for the exit, but the roof collapses, and as he dodges, Kaori drops the gift he gave her. He reaches a dead end, and he realizes there is no way out, so he uses his magic to smash through the building and make his own exit. The building shakes, but Yuya manages to make it out with the girls. The girls get treated, and the firefighters reprimand him for being so reckless. Kaori's father arrives, thanking him for saving his daughter again, and Yuya returns the otter pin he picked up. Kaori hugs her father, and Yuya thinks about what a family should be like, but he thinks that he doesn't really have anyone like that. But when he gets home, Night rushes to him, and he realizes they are family. Yuya thinks about what else he can do with magic, remembering that magic is just the materialization of his imagination. So he thinks about using it to travel, focusing on where he wants to go, and he manages to open a portal, which takes him deep into the dark forest. He is excited that it works, but it seems he can only use it to go to places he has already been. But he thinks he can use it to get home to feed Night, even when he goes on his school trip. They take the chance to do some more exploring, and they discover a cave, which happens to contain some goblins. But using his legendary sword, they are no match for him, and they find a whole bunch of rare items, storing them all away with his storage skill, and he thinks that his teamwork with Night is improving. They leave the cave, and Yuya thinks they should call it for the day, but Night gets sad, wanting to continue. Yuya says he needs to get back so that he can prepare for his school trip, but Night suddenly runs off. Yuya goes after him, and it seems Night detects something up ahead. So Yuya uses his invisibility skill to be careful, and he continues ahead. He comes across a girl that is injured, and is facing a number of goblins. Yuya wants to save her, but Night pulls him back. The elite goblin attacks, smashing down a tree, but there seem to be some threads that get in the way, and the girl attacks, cutting off the goblin's arm. Yuya wonders about the threads, but the goblins suddenly jump at the girl. She blocks their attack with her threads, but the elite goblin lands a hit on her, and it seems to knock her out. As the goblin approaches her, Yuya emerges, and together with Knight, they take out the goblins. But there are suddenly countless other goblins that appear, so Yuya decides to use his divine whip, which binds all of the goblins, crushing them all in a single attack. And he thinks it's just too overpowered, because it can attack multiple targets at once, and it can never miss. After the fight, he wonders what he should do with the girl. He thinks about taking her back to his house, but it seems Knight thinks it's a bad idea. He doesn't want to just leave the girl, but she suddenly wakes up, surprised she is being carried, and she ends up falling to the ground. Yuya offers her his healing juice, and it's able to instantly heal all of her injuries. The girl is surprised how effective it was, and wonders who he is. So Yuya introduces himself, as well as Knight, but Knight is hostile towards her, and Yuya wonders why. We learn that the girl's name is Luna, and she says she was training in the forest, but she was surprised by the elite goblin and ended up getting into trouble. She wonders what happened to them, but Yuya tells her that he took them out. She asks what he is doing in the forest, and he ends up saying that he was also training, but the girl is surprised to hear this for some reason. Since Yuya was the one who carried her to safety, Luna apologizes to him for being so filthy and covered with sweat, but Yuya says it's okay. She wonders if there is a river nearby where she can rinse off, but Yuya brings out his bath. He keeps watch outside, and Luna can't believe he has such a rare item. Yuya mentions how he got it from a crystal deer, and Luna is impressed he could defeat such a monster. Yuya thinks it's normal for the dark forest, but Luna reveals she is actually there on a client's request, although Yuya doesn't hear this. Luna asks him to accompany her with her training. Since they are both training in the forest, she wants to train with him. Yuya feels bad about leaving her to train alone, so he ends up agreeing to join her. After that, we see them training together, as Yuya helps her practice, but she also teaches him as well. They both manage to get stronger, and we see Luna as she takes out a goblin with her threads. Yuya compliments her for beating an elite, but she says she still has a long way to go, saying she needs to get even stronger so she can complete her mission. Yuya tells her he has to go, trying to explain that he has a school trip, but it doesn't really make sense to her, so he just apologizes, but she thanks him for all his help. After the last day of training, Yuya relaxes with a bath, but Luna suddenly joins him, wanting to share it with him. Yuya gets embarrassed, but Luna grabs onto him, telling him how much the time with him has meant to her, and saying that she will treasure it. She thanks him once again, offering to wash his back, but her towel suddenly drops, and Yuya becomes embarrassed. His class heads off on their school trip, and we see Yuya playing cards with his friends. Kaide thinks he looks tired, and Yuya admits he didn't get much sleep the previous night. Yuya wins the game, and they can't believe he just won 5 times in a row. But Yuya thinks the game should just be luck. Yuya decides to take a nap, and he thinks that he kept winning because he put a lot of points into his luck stat, thinking that the incident with Luna could have also been because of his luck. Yuya is woken up as they arrive at their destination. The students get changed, and their teacher explains that they have to go camping for 2 days and must find a way to survive off the land, telling them that there are fish in the river and plants that they could eat. Kaide worries that the plants could be poisonous, but Sawada tells them the school doctor is on standby, although the students find her creepy because they always hear screams coming from her office. Akira thinks they could just go without food for a day, but Sawada says it's all a part of the lesson, mentioning that it's a competition between the classes. Yuya wonders if there is a reward for the winners, but Sawada reveals it affects her bonus, so she tells them to do their best, but the students are not impressed. The students are left in the forest, and Yuya wonders what they should do first. Akira thinks it will be easy to survive, but the other 3 just ignore him, thinking he is a fool. Rin suggests that Yuya and Kaide try fishing, while she and Akira look for some edible plants. We see that all the students are by the river, and Kaide thinks they were too slow. They see Ryo by the water, and he warns them that all the good spots are already gone. Kaide wonders if they should try something else, but Yuya uses his detection skill and manages to find another spot. There are lots of fish in the area, but Kaide thinks the water is too shallow, so their fishing pole won't be effective. But Yuya has another plan, and he gets into the water. He thinks that compared to the monsters in the dark forest, the fish are not as fast. He thinks about what he learned from Luna about how to predict a monster's behavior, and he manages to catch a fish with his hand. Kaide is impressed seeing this, and Yuya continues to catch all the fish. The other students think he is crazy, and Kaide thinks he has caught too many. Yuya admits he got carried away, and he thinks about thanking Luna for her advice. Meanwhile, in the dark part of the town, we see a shop filled with puppets. Luna uses her thread, cutting off all their heads, and she notes that her power has improved. She thinks about her time with Yuya, but we learn she is actually an assassin